Allow the palms to face up on the knees. Gyan Mudra, index finger and thumb join, shoulders down away from the ears, long spine. Extending through the crown of the head and sigh out any tension in the chest, in the jaw and the belly. I find it really reliable when I chant mantra, whether it's tuning in with an invocational mantra, which is intended to invoke in a heightened state of awareness within yourself. The more you rinse and the repeat, the more quickly you can tap into that space. Or any mantra that you develop a relationship with, it's mind liberation is what mantra means. And I find when I'm in that liberated space of my mind, whether it's through mantra or some other meditative experience, time seems a lot more flexible, right? I can both feel like there is no time at all, or that I have been in this space for eternity, right? I can't remember when I stopped or started being in this experience, right? Because that is our eternality we're connecting into. So time lifts, the burden and the sensory awareness of time starts to lift because you connect to a space of eternality within yourself. And so you're experiencing, I'm here. I've always been here. There's no beginning or end. But then as soon as you acknowledge that, you lose it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's actually really only been about a minute. Wow, how funny that time is so flexible. And then the analytical mind starts to step in. And then you connect back to the breath again. And you reclaim eternality. And then something comes in, a thought, a sensation that brings you back into time. And there's a dance, right? Shiva and Shakti. It's the falling asleep and the waking up. The more that we do this practice, or any type of yogic practice, right? Yoga meaning unification, intimacy, reclamation with one's own true nature. As we practice these technologies, the space between waking up and falling asleep becomes smaller, and the differentiation between the two experiences becomes less severe. And so you're in more of what they call contentment. Right? There's a balancing out of your eternality with your temporality. There's a trust, and there's also an awareness of the material reality. And so here we are, right? Flirting with that space, flirting with that place. And some would say that this is a balance or a dialogue. What is a dialogue, right? Even and balanced communication, give and take. A dialogue between the head and the heart. The head is the temporal self, the mind, right? The part that's stuck in time. The heart is the space of eternality. And so we're creating a dialogue, and a more effective, non-violent communicating dialogue between the head and the heart with yoga. The head space desires safety, wants its needs met, wants success, has desires, has responsibilities, has material realities, has a fear of death, lives in duality, has preferences. It's very self-focused, temporary, and limited. The space of the heart is expanded. It's the polarity of the space of the mind, really. It's self is equal to all. Others' needs are important equally to one's own needs. Spiritual and emotional connection are possible, and unification is the true reality. It's selfless, it's eternal, and it's unlimited. And often, right, we're vacillating between those two spaces, and as we heal and come into our wholeness, it becomes more balanced, the dialogue between head and heart. It becomes more refined as we evolve, as we learn, as we grow. A balance between the head and the heart occurs and resonates more consistently. Our humanity merges with our spirituality. we claim a fuller embodiment of our highest potential. Suffering becomes grace. There are some of us, obviously, however, whether due to trauma, whether to unmet needs, whether learned behavior, or some other matter of circumstances, who have lost the dialogue between the head and the heart, and there is only a monologue of the mind. The heart is completely shut down. A worldview of me versus you takes form through the person's nature, through the person's behavior. And collectively, when many people gather in that state of consciousness, it becomes us versus them. The evolution beyond me versus you. Then there's separation, there's racism, there's sexism, there's all sorts of things. Misogynism, right? I don't know. All these isms. I guess ism is the manifestation of that me versus you, us versus them worldview. It's survivalism without spirituality, ego without soul, false self is in charge, fear-dominated environment of the inner being. Mind without heart. This is narcissism. It's a really powerfully overused term right now that we've lost real compassionate perspective for, right? Because we've often become such intense victims of narcissism, right? Of narcissists in our life that have caused us profound harm. So we create a shutting down of the heart as a result of our experience of that manifestation. What that really is just a monologue of the mind as opposed to a dialogue between the mind and the heart. We tend to vilify narcissists, right? Because we know the misalignment of their behavior. It's destructive, it causes suffering, it's concerned only with the self, there's no regard for other, the mind is fully in charge, the heart is lost, there's no ability for compassion. And what compassion means is love for other. When a reclamation of the consciousness of the heart becomes possible and exercised, a reunification of the heart with the mind and dialogue takes form. The monologue is ceased or lessened, and the dialogue starts to take form. In this way, I believe things like narcissism and borderline personality disorder can be remedied, right? Can create an evolution beyond that prison of experience. But there needs to be a willingness and an awareness of the state of circumstance. And that's, when Einstein said that you cannot solve a problem at the level of consciousness it was created at, right? You can't heal narcissism with narcissism. You have to evolve beyond it. And how do you cultivate an ability to evolve beyond that which you cannot see or know? And that's willingness. That's the third chakra. Right? The gateway between the low triangle of consciousness and the high triangle of consciousness of the heart, of the spiritual center. Narcissists are not broken, as modern psychological community would have us think. I believe that they are severely out of balance. And a lot of society is also severely out of balance. You and I here today, in our own experience of it, are out of balance. And we are here with a willingness to reclaim it, right? So just out of that, safe to assume that we're all not narcissists here. Let's hope. Right? Now, this is how holistic modalities like yoga, energy healing, meditation can be so transformative and so life-changing. It's not that a narcissist is broken, it's that they've lost connection to their true essence in their hearts. They rely fully on the mind. Their sense of self is so fragile and limited because their whole sense of self is built upon the ego, and the ego is not real. The ego is illusion. So their whole sense of reality is on illusion. It's ever changing and chaotic and confusing. When a person participates in work with the chakras, shadow work, energy work, yogic work, meditative work, a constitutional realignment starts to take form at the level of energy, our most foundational level, and then carries on into the denser levels of our being. We re-embody a natural balance of the head and the heart through this. In the context of narcissism, a reopening and an intimacy of the heart needs to occur, along with the minimization of the mind reliance and the strategy, right? The strategization of the me versus you mindset, the us versus them mindset. Again, willingness is the key. Starting with reuniting to the inner self. Gain distance from the ego and intimacy with the inner truth. The illusory self loses power. Self-love is reclaimed, right? Because an acknowledgement of the true self starts to take form. And it's like, whoa, whatever I thought I was, I am not. I am this, and this is real, and this is true, and this is whole, and this is love. And then you can see that that exists in others. That is a rebalancing of the head and the heart. That is the opposite of narcissism. In this way, not only healing is possible for these folks, right, these fellow human beings we call narcissists, but also by reclaiming balance, through this, we personally, as observers of this behavior, have an ability for an evolution of compassion beyond us being victims of that. Right? We tap into our eternality and say, there's something in me that you can't destroy, and there's something in me that I see in myself that I see that you're not seeing in yourself. I'm not going to try and fix that. That's your job. But I can still hold space for you. I can still hold compassion for you. I can still not harm you, even though you're endeavoring to harm me in a way because you are not seeing clearly. Right? We can set boundaries. We can love from a distance. We can extend prayer, even if we can't be in their company. And through this, we are healing narcissism based on how we see it in life. And then if we see it differently in life, then the people who are experiencing our experience of them start to see themselves differently because we are treating them differently. We are behaving toward them differently. So it's a mirror. It's a mirror. And so today, in honor of connecting to that inner wisdom, that inner true nature that is so unapologetically more real than the egoic preoccupation, we're going to dive in really deep today. Everything is going to be like, it's drawing all the senses. We're going to do some whistle breathing. We're going to do some long hold, gentle postures. We're going to do some chanting of mantra, connecting to that third center to invite the energy up out of that third chakra, right? The gateway of self-preoccupation, but willingness, right? And then rise it up into the heart. So let's take our hands onto the knees. Eyes are drawn up to third eye center, and we start with Sufi circles.